Hello, everybody, and thanks to board members and public for attending. Ricardo Diaz is out today, and so I will be chairing this meeting, and we will start as we call the meeting of the Urbana Civilian Police Review Board to order with a roll call.
Mr. Diaz, Mr. Dossett,
Here.
Mr. Allegretti,
Here.
Ms. Kendall,
Here.
Mr. Rice, and Mr. Wilson.
Here.
All right, so we have a quorum. Proceeding on to agenda item number 2, the approval of the agenda. Anyone have any concerns or questions about what we have in front of us? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes of previous meetings. Lamond emailed these to us to read through, I don't know, a week or more ago. Do I hear a motion for approval of the first or second set, or?
I make a motion that we approve the minute from May 7th, 2021 and May 14th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Allegretti,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz, Mr. Dossett,
Yes.
Ms. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Rice, and Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, so we're through that. Item 4 is public participation. This is a 4-minute clock for anybody who's wanting to make comments about anything they want to. So if you'd like to do that, just please go ahead and raise your hand. And I see that we have Tracy Chong wishing to enter comments. So Tracy, please come on.
Hi, I'm Tracy from Urbana. Okay, I'll keep today's comments really short as I haven't really prepared much. So I just wanted to address something. First, I guess after the last appeals hearing, I suggested that it would be nice to hear some discussion, and thank you for doing that. But I was also concerned about things I heard during the discussion. For example, I think you guys had briefly talked about the notary requirement and how Mr. Dossett said something like, oh, one of the reasons for voting that way was because kind of like we've been doing that for many, many years, for 11 years, 12 years. So I just wanted to kind of say that just because something has been going on for a long time, it just doesn't make it right. So just because somehow, somewhere along the line, you guys decided to make notarization a requirement. It's never in the ordinance. Just because you guys have done it for many, many years just doesn't make it right. So I was kind of disappointed to hear that. And I hope that when you guys make future decisions, like it's actually based on the ordinance and not just based on what people have been doing, what you guys have been doing for years. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And let's see, anyone else with their hands up? Christopher Hansen. Christopher?
Hello there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, my name is Christopher, I'm from Urbana. Welcome, Mr. Wilson, to the board. It's good to see seats getting filled. I agree with what was said by the previous commenter. I think the way I would say things is that I believe this process lacks due process. I think that's how you might describe it. There doesn't seem to be a disciplined sense of how to determine right and wrong and hold accountability and consider appropriate actions and determinations based on the fact that we do have written processes, and we actually have a written police policies manual. And what we observe over and over and over in this board is doesn't really seem to matter at all what the policies are. My personal impression is that it appears to me that the charm with which police misconduct is presented to the board determines your propensity to rule that there was no misconduct at all. And that's seriously problematic. I would, and this has been apparent not only in TASER reviews, but also in the complaint and appeals process. So I'll give a simple example. During one of the appeals, Mr. Dawson said he refused to consider any new evidence, and it wasn't clear to me why someone would say something like that in an appeals process. And I just don't understand that. We have a hearing officer who's been hired by the city, who doesn't seem to speak up or say anything when the appeals or CPRB process isn't properly followed. I mean, I'll note that, you know, this attorney, this hearing officer, works for a law firm that is known for having a lot of police officers as clients. So maybe we need to consider a different hearing officer at this point. I do hope, and I think from discussing with Mr. Diaz, that the hearings are at least bringing forward a lot of good questions and providing some practice. So I think that's good that's happening. But again, my observation is that the sense of due process is all but lost. And well, I sure would. I know Mr. Allegretti is really good at that kind of thing. So I sure wish there would be better attendance maybe at those appeals hearings. Maybe they would go a bit smoother with someone with some legal finesse in there. But yeah, I mean, again, just this past TASER review where, I mean, even the deputy chief was admitting that there was misconduct. I just cannot fathom any explanation from this board how several members, actually the two key members, or the two most senior members, voted that there was no misconduct. I just don't get it. You had the deputy chief essentially admit that the officer did something wrong, and then two of you voted that it was fine. I would love to hear any kind of explanation about how that makes sense in any universe. So it's difficult to see those kinds of things from some of the board members and have any kind of feeling of trust that things are going to work well here. But I mean, I'll note that the board did, I think, vote in the correct direction, but just barely. So anyways, I hope you'll talk about due process a lot more and be more careful and rigid in that respect to make sure that everything is done properly and by the book, and not just kind of vote based on, you know, how much Mr. Searles smiles while he gives his presentation. All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm looking for hands here. All right, I think we've got everybody who wanted to make, well, let me check here. We're up to 8 attendees. Okay, I don't see any hands, so we're through with that part. Okay, thank you so much for the input, everyone. All right, unfinished business, number 5. You know, Carol or Lamont, certainly, you know, step in at any time here. Did staff want to say anything about any of the unfinished business items?
Sure.
Okay, Carol, thank you.
You might want to note for the record that you've been joined by Tony Rice as well.
Oh, hey, Tony.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late.
As far as the complaints, the number of complaints in 2021 is the same as it was last time, which is 4. And I was just counting up the number of, and we have no appeals yet in 2021. Based on my count, the number of appeals remaining in 2020 is 37. So we're working through those gradually. And I don't have any update on the report status because we've been in budget, working on the budget. So there hasn't been any additional staff time to work on that in the past month. And that's all I have. The other item, dates for reporting to city council, that was something that was more board related than staff related.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I don't really know why that's there, and I can't remember Ricardo bringing that up.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was something Ricardo got up trying to coordinate dates and a closer collaboration for a regular appearance by the CPRB or a scheduled appearance by the CPRB at city council meetings so that there was a deeper connectivity developed, but he's not here this evening, so.
sure. Okay. Yeah, the contact, as you know, most of us on the board know, with city council has been, you know, it's kind of on an as need to basis, and pretty seldom. We could have done a better job perhaps with that interface. Katrina presented about a motion that we made about changing the status. I can't remember exactly what that was right now, Katrina. And then Tony and I double teamed on, I think, the second of a couple of suggested ordinance changes that we had. All right, great. Anybody else want to comment on any of the unfinished business items? Okay, seeing no hands, move on to.
Sorry, Scott,
Oh.
do we have dates, or are we gonna?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Okay,
And you know, I don't really feel like I'm in a position to actually move on that at this point in time. So that'll be left to you guys.
Carol, are we gonna get one of the doodle or something to fill out availability, or is this something we'll just take up at the next meeting, or?
Well, until I know that you have something that you know what you want to talk about, I don't want to schedule it. I don't need.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like scheduling a hearing. It just
Right.
needs a volunteer, for somebody to volunteer to go to council and then to know what you want to say once you get there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I thought, sorry, this is Katrina. I thought when we had gotten this topic up that there would be a set time on the agenda of the city council, whether we show up or not. We would know that if we needed to bring something, if it was the third Monday, then we would, every month we'd be on the agenda if we had something, and we would just let you know, no, we don't, or yes, we do, but we would as a board prepare for something on that day because it's a set time that we know that's our day each month to present when the city council meets. I was under the impression that that's what Ricardo wanted us to do, not because of, like Scott said, it was sporadic here and there. But if we have something, then if it is happen to be the third Monday, then we know every month on the third Monday, if we have something, we would let you know we need to present, or if we don't, but we would always know they've allotted some time for us on that day. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I thought the idea was to just be more regularly appearing before the board or before the council, just to, you know, show our faces and update them, just because that was a goal that the board had.
So I'll just say a couple of things about that. When we put an item on the agenda, if you want to make a presentation, for instance, then, you know, we have to put some substance to it. You know, we have to tell people what it's about, not just CPRB report. But you're always welcome to come to the public input and give public input, you know, on any Monday. So if I'm going to actually schedule a presentation, I need to have a little bit more substance than just hold a slot for us.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Carol. I mean, I don't know of any other board, be it Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee or the Historic Preservation Commission, which, you know, I sat on for 15 years, that has anything like a marker on the city council agenda. So that may be what Ricardo intended, but that would be pretty highly unusual as somebody who's gone to a lot of city council meetings. So, you know, just for what it's worth.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify. I didn't just mean just blindly put us on. I think that Ricardo's intent was for us to be, like Tony said, to be more visible to the council. And of course, we would prepare something so that you would put the proper thing on the agenda at the appropriate time. So I just want to, on the record, I didn't mean to just throw us on there.
Yeah. Well, and it's really probably not at cross purposes, but it's more at that point in time, it becomes more of a board push that needs to happen, within CPRB. If the group decides that, the third Monday of the month is when we want to be ready to take stuff, then you've got an easy opportunity all the way up until, at least the middle of the preceding week to work with Carol to get a slot, on the agenda. So, which I think would be great, especially vis-a-vis some of the proposed changes to the ordinance, that we've talked about. So, anybody else? Okay, on to 6, new business, affirmation of dismissal of complaints, number 2021-02 and 2021-03. Carol, you want to lead us here?
Yes, please. Thank you. So I had sent you all an email about this because I wanted you to be prepared in the event that that you wanted to review the records in the cases that I'm going to cite and column this. The email predated you getting approved, so you may want to just vote present if they take a vote on this. The reason I'm bringing this to you, and I explained this in the email, but I'll do this for the benefit of the members of the public, is that as the acting HRO for the moment, I believe I have the authority to dismiss these cases because they're untimely. However, there's been, as we have talked about tiering cases, and as we have talked about numbering everything, and the general sense of wanting greater transparency on what has been happening with the HRO or the HREO now, that role, and not wanting there to be this sort of things that happen that are sort of behind the curtain. And we don't have a process for that. So I didn't want to dismiss a case without bringing it to you so that you could be aware of it, the public could be aware of it. And so the process that I'm asking you to participate in is that you affirm my decision, and I'm going to explain it to you about why I think the cases should be dismissed. So these are the complaints, as Scott read the numbers, number 2021-02 and 2021-03. And the incident giving rise to those complaints occurred on November 12th, 2017. So as it relates to these latest complaint forms, that's not quite, it's 3.5 years ago. And section 19-28G of the ordinance reads as follows. Complaints shall be filed within 45 working days of the date of the incident giving rise to the complaint, unless the complainant can demonstrate that the complainant was physically unable to file a complaint within 45 working days. In such a case, the complaint must be filed within 15 calendar days of the date the person becomes physically able to file. Under no circumstances, however, shall any complaint be filed more than 1 year after the date giving rise to the complaint. So you can see this is many years after. However, I do know that the reason why these complaints came back was because they had been filed earlier. And those original complaints, which I also cited in my email to you, were numbered 2019-11A, 2019-11B, and 2019-11C. Those complaints were filed on October 11th, 2019, same date of the incident, November 12th, 2019, or 2017. So it's almost the original complaints, which were dismissed because there was an ongoing criminal case, and the person was told that they could refile, that date of filing the complaint relative to the date of the complaint was almost 2 years, well in excess of the 1 year. So my intent is to dismiss these complaints as untimely, and they were never timely, which is why I go back to just to make reference to that original complaint, because they should have been dismissed for not being timely back then. That would have put an end to it instead of, I mean, there were multiple reasons why they could, and they chose one which was valid, but not definitive. So that's my reasoning. I have a letter written. There's not a findings letter. I want to include your disposition of this in the findings letter, but everything that's in my draft letter, I put in my email to you, and I just basically read to the public. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that, and I would ask you to affirm my dismissal of complaints 2021-02 and 2021-03 as being untimely.
All right. Okay, great. Thanks, Carol. So discussion, motion, what do you guys want?
Just some clarity, the original incident occurred on November 12th, 2017, but a complaint was not made until October 11th, 2019.
Correct.
Okay.
Carol, do we know when the separate criminal matter was resolved?
That was, well, the individual was sentenced in January of 2021, I believe on the eve of trial in the fall of 2020, he decided to plead guilty.
And it looks like you were aware he was incarcerated pending trial for the entire time.
He was incarcerated, I believe that he was originally incarcerated in 2018. I don't know if I included that, but that may have been in the article that I linked to.
Okay.
He had been incarcerated well in advance of filing the original complaint in October of 2019.
So he was incarcerated when he filed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And they didn't, so, sorry, I'm just tracking this. So he filed originally, and that was almost 2 years after the original incident in the case.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have. I think this maybe points to a larger issue we might have with the period of time someone has to file, and possibly if he was told they were going to be dismissed when he filed.
If you look in the record of the case, of the cases in 2019, in fact, I can just give me a second. I can read you the relevant section.
Yeah, there's a file in the portal that's essentially just a spreadsheet.
Right.
Not like a full case file there.
I mean, our current procedure would be if someone filed their complaint if there was a pending criminal case under 19-37, it should be suspended if the police or the city attorney requests. But that would prevent the case from being dismissed. It would just be held pending the criminal case.
Right, but it was never timely.
Right. This doesn't seem to be timely. And this is more of larger picture issues. I'm just kind of discussing about being physically unable to file. I don't know if I don't know if we consider that incarceration being physically unable, I would say it'd be rather difficult. But yeah, I mean, the fact that this is almost 2 years out, based on the current constraints, that would seem to be a problem. But if you've got a pending criminal case, what I'm getting at is that there may be some area here to discuss about, ordinance rewrites that we've been discussing prior about how we want this to play out, because this is kind of brings to light some interesting issues about someone trying to complain, why it took him almost 2 years to do so, with the fact that we know that he was incarcerated. That may have made that relatively difficult. It looks like it was a federal case too, so he wasn't local.
So I'll just read some of the relevant parts of the letter that went to this individual at the time. So this is in 2019, following the filing of the October 2019 complaints. The city is in receipt of the 3 Urbana Police Action Citizen Complaint Forms you filed dated October 11th, 2019. For your reference, your complaints have been numbered 2019-11A, 2019-11B, and 2019-11C. After reviewing your complaints, I have determined that the content of your complaints are related to an open criminal case in U.S. District Court, Central District of Illinois. Section 19-28Q of the Urbana City Code states the CPRB shall not have jurisdiction over complaints relating to any in-court proceedings. Additionally, you indicated on all 3 Urbana Police Action Citizen Complaint Forms your intent to file a lawsuit against the city of Urbana on this matter. Section 19-37 of the Urbana City Code states CPRB review of any complaint shall be suspended if a civil action against the city is threatened, underway, or pending. Accordingly, I am unable to open an investigation into this matter. However, you have the right to refile your complaint upon the resolution of your court case. And then it gives the docket number. So that's what was sent to the complainant back in December of 2019.
So I guess the question kind of becomes, is it the responsibility of the CPRB to monitor suspended cases ad infinitum, or for some set period, or how we even get the information that we need to be able to respond to your concern, Tony? I mean,
right.
These cases can go on for years, right? I mean,
they can. It can take a very long time. Given the link here that Carol shared, the allegations and it being a federal case, that can take, some time, even if it wasn't a federal case. But, even, I guess it's pretty clear in our ordinance that this would be untimely. Except for the issue, even assuming he was physically unable, because we're going to say being incarcerated makes you physically unable, he would still have exceeded that time period. I guess the other question I had is, should we be affirming the decision or not, or should it be the decision of the complainant to file an appeal regarding whether or not this was dismissed properly, and then take it up at that point? It could be that I'm wondering if that's more appropriate, because I don't think there's anything in the ordinance about us affirming a decision on a dismissal.
No, there isn't, and neither is there anything in the ordinance about a complainant being able to appeal the decision of the HRO. And that's what I'm trying to be responsive to what I've been hearing from both CPRB members and the public, that there's this void, right? So I'm trying to, by including you in this, I'm trying to fill that void, even though the ordinance doesn't. So if you choose to reject that, that's fine. I'm just trying to be responsive to what I've been hearing.
Right. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with bringing it up. I'm just thinking out loud and wondering what the proper procedure should be. And again, this may be something to include in the rewrite about, appealing decisions of the HRO. Should that be included in our purview, or should it, should it be something like what we've talked about before, with some sort of a tiering of complaints and having it reviewed maybe by a couple of the members of the board, kind of like a smaller committee or something like that.
Katrina, let's let Katrina jump
I have
in.
a question. So I just want to clarify this. So you said the person in the email was not incarcerated until 2018, correct?
Correct.
And so if we have a 45-day window and the incident happened on November 12th, 2017, 45 days from that is December 27th, 2017, when he was still not incarcerated. So there's no lapse. There's no reason why he couldn't have made his complaint in the 45 days, and he can't use that he was incarcerated because we're still in the same year.
Well, I think that's a valid observation, certainly.
Okay.
And I don't think, given that he did file the complaint finally as a person who was incarcerated, being incarcerated is clearly not a barrier to filing a complaint.
Correct.
He was incarcerated when he filed the complaint.
Right. He definitely was incarcerated. I was just trying to figure out if there was no barrier for him in those 45 days from the incident. It's like the incident happened, you had 45 days, and I'm not sure when he was incarcerated in 2018, but there was no barrier. And then once he was incarcerated, he was in there regardless of when he went in 2018. He waited until the end of almost 2 months shy of the end of 2019 to make this complaint. Okay, I just needed some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Katrina. Yeah, that was a great dialogue there. Okay, so we've had some discussion here, and what do you guys want to do with this?
I'm just going to say again, if you decide you don't want to take any action, I'm fine with that. I have done my duty. I have informed you. I have given you the opportunity. I am comfortable with my decision, and happy to move on if you're not comfortable affirming my decision.
Do we need like a motion or something? I'm not sure what the next, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
You'll need a motion to either affirm the dismissal or to not affirm the dismissal, and then take a vote.
well, I make a motion that we affirm the dismissal of these two cases, 2021-02 and 2021-03.
Do I see a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've had quite a bit of discussion already, but it's, this is a good time. I'm plugging in my charger. If anybody has anything else to add before we take a vote, I've got a couple of comments to make. That doesn't necessarily have to be before we vote, but I just wanted to say that, Carol, I'm glad that you're talking about integrating a findings letter into the packet that we have. The other thing that I would have liked to have been able to see is sort of the full file in terms of the case. I got really confused. I tried to read through the documentation for the 2021 filing several times, and it was kind of truncated, and he was like pulling things he'd FOIA'd and kind of
Hey,
made
Scott,
Yes.
we're getting feedback. Could we have all the members just mute while you're speaking?
Is that better? Yeah. Okay. I'm comfortable in voting in the affirmative for the motion. But I guess I want to make a point about this specifically because I don't have that many chances to make points anymore. And because I do believe that this committee needs to be able to, and I will just use the word, protect itself with a tiering system, that even those complaints that get tiered out need it to be completely documented. The dates is enough for me on this, and what I could read is enough for me, but I really like being able to see that whole case file so that I would have gotten the full report, including supplementals from officers that were unredacted, kind of the originals, and then kind of following through that whole chain of custody of the complaint itself to the resolution, which in this case is going to be a findings letter by you.
But just to be clear on this one, there was no investigation because I am choosing to dismiss the case as untimely, so we don't do an investigation. So everything that is in the file is the complaint, and it's a bit of a jumble because that's the way it came in.
Okay.
But there would be nothing else because we didn't investigate anything.
All right. So we take what we have in the complaint. If that complaint decides that whatever the group consists of decides that it's going to be tiered out or administratively reviewed, the findings letter gets issued to the individual who filed it, and that's it. It never goes to UPD. I mean, a sergeant may never see any of these. Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so it's time to vote. Lamont, would you like to call roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Allegretti,
Present.
Mr. Diaz, Mr. Dossett,
Yes.
Ms. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, okay, you have
Present,
three.
excuse me.
You have 3 in favor of dismissal and 2 who voted present. The motion carries.
All right, great. Okay, thanks, everybody. And thank you, Carol. And so you'll integrate some of the comments that we had today into a findings letter, and then the portal will be added to sometime in the future.
Yes.
Right? Okay, great. Thank you.
And we're putting all of this on the list for amendments to the ordinance.
Okay. All right. So that finishes new business, board input and communications. A is board member comments and announcements. Would any board members like to make comments or announcements? Seeing none.
Hey, Scott, this may
sure.
be a good time to introduce Mr. Wilson.
Oh, well, great. Mr. Wilson, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Cullen Wilson. I am just recently appointed to the board by Mayor Marlin. I am an engineer here in the Champaign-Urbana area. I work for Vesuvius here in Champaign. I wanted to get involved in the city, and I saw Scott put out an email to the listserv suggesting people apply to the openings on the board, and that's where I heard about here. I watched your March 24th meeting, and it seemed interesting and important too. So I went and applied, and here I am. So thank you for the welcome invitation, and I look forward to learning the whole process and hopefully contributing something useful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Colin. Next item, 7B, 3 CPRB vacancies, resignation of Scott Dossett as of 6/1/21. Yeah, I mean, we're still in need of members, and I'm afraid I have just made it worse. But so if you know people that are active in the community, please have them get to staff at the mayor's office, and I believe there's a commission petition, sort of a generic one online somewhere on the city's webpage. All right, item C.
I just wanted to, I know that Dennis had said some nice things at the last hearing that we had, but I just wanted to thank you so much for your service to the city. And I know that you're very passionate about this work. And I, even though we have not always agreed, I have appreciated the dialogue that we've had, the vigorous conversations that we've had, and your commitment to civil discourse is much appreciated. So I wish that everybody would be as involved in their community as you are in many ways. And from, you know, the mayor's out of town, but and I know she would be here otherwise to say this herself, but just really appreciate your service to the CPRB and the city in general.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And I appreciate you too, Scott, even though we haven't met outside of Zoom. I've learned a lot from everybody, and it is sometimes a little discerning being the only woman, but I have gained my voice on this board. But I appreciate everything that you have done for the board and our interaction over these last few months that I've got the pleasure of working with you. And I hate, like I said, that we weren't able to meet face to face due to COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement myself, Scott. Wish we could have met before this. We had a very short period of time where we, Zoom met and Zoom interviewed, and I wish I could have gained a little bit more knowledge, some of the history. I think as new members we lack, and we're definitely going to miss you. That's for sure. But I think you've given us small tools that we can actually advance ourselves with. And with that, I say I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony.
God, I wish Ricardo was here to roast you a little more as you're leaving, but I think he would have had more ammo than the rest of us. But yeah.
Take a stab at it, Tony. Take a stab at it.
Well, yeah, I'm Zoom friends with Scott. We have not met in physical space, which is unfortunate. But yes, Scott, you were definitely a pillar of this board, and you will be missed. I appreciate our conversations we've had both in meeting and off. So we wish you all the best. Hopefully you'll maybe be available for a miscellaneous question or two if somebody tries to reach out to you. I hope you don't go too far, but good luck with the future.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Hey, Scott, certainly I've only been here about 8 months, but while we're here and on the record, I think it's important just to take note and thank you for your hard work at getting the records together, reviewing the cases. I did have the pleasure of meeting you face to face. We got to talk in the executive office, and just the undertaking of which and the willingness to take on work. And I think that people in our community should understand this is volunteer. And Scott came in and organized and went through years of cases and files so that as we work to improve our transparency, our house was a little more in order. Our room was cleaned up, so to speak. And, to that and to much of the soothing commentary that you give when things sometimes get heated has always been much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah. C, announcement of new person.
Yes, I'm so excited. So Monday was a big night because we got column approved for the CPRB, but we also had the appointment of Carla Boyd as our new Human Rights and Equity Officer past the council. So we've rechristened the HRO as the HREO, the Human Rights and Equity Officer. And Carla started yesterday and really hit the ground running. And I told her, I said, well, we have a CPRB meeting tomorrow. And I hope you don't have any other plans for the evening. So anyway, I'd like her just to introduce herself and give a little bit of her background. And you all will be seeing more of her in the future. But if it's okay with you, Scott, if Carla says a few words go ahead.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everybody. I'm very honored to be in this role. And I know it's an important role, and I'm looking forward to engaging with this body here. just you guys are, I've had an opportunity to watch some of your meetings, and I know that you are very engaged with the work of the Citizens Review Board of Police. And so I'm excited to just work with you. I'm honored to be here. A little bit about me. I've worked 23 years in higher education. And prior to that, I was in social services, and from little kids all the way up to senior citizens. I am a lover of people, and I am a champion for people to have their voice. And for those who don't feel like they have a voice, I want to be a voice for them. And I am excited that I'm sorry that, Scott, you're leaving, because you were kind of interesting to watch on those videos. And I was so hoping to get to engage with you, but I am hoping that you would be available to me for history, to be able to talk to you and to get some of that knowledge that you have and to get a perspective. So thank you all for joining me or for allowing me to be here. And I'm also encouraged by the community members that are involved. I've noticed that at each meeting, there are community members involved, and that is something to be proud of. And I'm hoping to have the same level of engagement as the community members do.
Okay, Carla. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for their kind comments. Item D is the next regularly scheduled meeting. Will be June 23rd, 2021. They're usually always at 5:30. And so put that on your calendar and stay tuned. Item E is exit commentaries and thoughts shared by me. I didn't prepare anything, really. Appreciate the sentiments, of course, of all of the board members, and certainly appreciate the enthusiasm and criticism of public when they come in and comment on either our individual or collective action. This board started out with a sort of a simpler model than we certainly could be heading toward now. And there's a lot of public discussion about what kind of model we have and whether another one is required. My personal perspective is that the kind of model that we might idealize for Urbana is going to be one that we can't afford. And so I think we have to do the rewriting of the ordinance places that we've noted today and people have noted before, to issue some clarity where the appeals process has brought up problems that we have with the current one. But occasionally I remind people that this ordinance that established us back in the end of 2008 actually passed on just a 4-3 vote. And so this has always been kind of a hot seat place. And, I think y'all are ready for it to be like that. So that's about all that I wanted to say. Thanks to staff. Certainly Carol Mitten coming in, probably it's maybe almost been a year ago now when, with my objection about staff support, she said she would stay with us, and she has. So Carla, you've got a good mentor and a model there to kind of help you get your feet wet in this, and I'm certainly always available to anyone to talk about this. The social justice issues that we have and embedded racial prejudice in this country are all the reason that any of us should need to try to be involved in this work in some way. Yeah, thank you all. I'm done. So we'll go to public participation now, and I see that Sarah Nixon has her hand up. Sarah? We can't hear you, Sarah, or if unmute, please. Still showing you as muted. Okay.
Turning down some ambient noise. Hi, CPRB, this is Sarah Nixon. Unfortunately, I am multitasking this evening. I have conflicting multiple meetings, so I have not been able to hear and follow everything that you've been discussing so far. However, some things did jump out at me and prompt me to comment. Specifically, your discussion about a complainant who is incarcerated and who was incarcerated at the time of submitting a complaint of police misconduct. I feel that this scenario that you have, that the board has been discussing, illustrates exactly why, two things, why it is so critical for members of the public to pay attention to what is going on at your meetings and to serve as informal watchdogs in response to what is going on at the CPRB. And secondly, why it is so crucial that CPRB, that the board include members who have themselves experienced the process of incarceration, who have experienced the ordeal of police misconduct, and who have experienced the ordeal of criminal litigation processes. I heard it stated multiple times that being incarcerated is no barrier to filing a complaint. I heard it even alluded to as an excuse. Ms. Kendall, you stated that something to the effect of, oh, well, he wasn't incarcerated, or the complainant wasn't incarcerated at some time or other. And so he doesn't have or didn't have that excuse, or you made a statement to that effect. Oh, well, he can't use that. I heard you also say he waited till the end of, I'm not sure what period of time specifically you were alluding to, but I think you were gesturing to like some sort of 2-year period, and he waited till the end. The issue is that the comments that I have heard this evening speak very loudly to a real problem of lack of education, lack of awareness, lack of understanding on the part of various board members and Ms. Mitten as well. A lack of understanding and education when it comes to the experience of the complainant. Your attitudes are dismissive. You're looking for ways to deny. You're looking for ways to, in fact, vilify and reduce the legitimacy of and reasonableness of potential complaints that are potentially legitimate. It's not Ms. Mitten's job, and it's not your job in discourse here to assume that the complaint is baseless and to stigmatize the complainant. And what is especially distressing, this is what I would like to also emphasize, is your collective assumption that somebody behind bars has every resource available to them. And if they are 2 years late in filing a complaint, or 45 days later, whatever it is, that it must be due to some sort of scheme on their part, or some kind of flaw, a character flaw, laziness, et cetera, et cetera. This is definitely, whether you intend it or not, this is the attitude that seeps through your discussions. The reality could not be more different. So I want to propose that you add to your agenda of education for CPRB membership not just these happy tours that you're given and ride-alongs that you're given by the police department, but you need to be visiting prisons. You need to be visiting jails. You need to be sitting down with people who have been through this process, and even talk to people who have been the victim of police misconduct and brutality, who have never filed complaints, who have no faith in the system, who don't believe there'd be any point in torturing themselves by going through that process. Learn about the reality of what it is like to exist behind bars and not have access to any of the modes of communication and information that the rest of the world takes for granted. And also add trauma-informed training to your training agenda or training protocol for CPRB members. I am hearing from you a real lack of understanding of how trauma impacts a person's ability to file a complaint. Simply put, it can create organizational complications, time management complications, and that's even without the extraordinary barrier of being locked up. Trauma can lead to a sense of overwhelm, of futility, which is quite reasonable when it comes to the daunting prospect of filing a complaint against such an intimidating system as the police department. I could speak more. I don't know if I'm running out of time.
Yeah, you're considerably over, Sarah, but I appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. And I hope you continue to come and, provide the input that you have tonight and have before. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I believe Tracy Chong's hand was raised next.
Hi, I would like to say I totally agree with what the previous commenter had said, especially the trauma, and especially how just because someone can can write something and submit a complaint doesn't mean they actually can write a complaint. But she said it much better than me. But I think tonight, the way you guys just dismissed the complaint and how you guys just said, okay, it's this date, this date, this date, and he didn't do it by this date, he didn't do it by this date, nothing is valid. You guys missed the purpose of the board. You guys missed the purpose of your jobs being on the board. You're supposed to be the citizens advocate, like be the citizens' perspective on misconduct. And someone is telling you there is misconduct, and all you could see was, or listen to Carol Mitten, was that they didn't follow the dates. Just because they didn't follow the dates does not mean there wasn't this misconduct. So what's going to happen? The misconduct will just go on and on. I guess it's just really disheartening, because I thought that based on all the discussions about wanting to have public trust, wanting to build trust, and this something like this is exactly why there's no public trust. For someone who has gone through, I mean, for example, the complainant gone through incarceration and gone through the court cases, for him to actually submit a complaint when there probably was misconduct, I don't know, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but he felt that there was something to be looked in, and to just be dismissed like that is, I think you guys failed the public in this case. And I don't know, I felt it extremely disturbing when Carol Mitten was like initially saying, oh yeah, this is an affirmation, and then when you guys were maybe seemed hesitant to do it, immediately like almost like, I don't care if you guys do it, I will go ahead doing it. So what's the point? Like, why is she running? Why is she making such decisions? This is not a city staff decision. These kinds of decisions should be made by you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And now I'm seeing Christopher Hansen. Christopher?
Hi, am I on?
Yep, you're live.
Oh, sorry, had my phone screen off there. Hi, my name is Christopher, speaking again. Everything Sarah Nixon said was spot on. The fact that someone would file a complaint, even while incarcerated or even during a criminal process, pretty much makes that person something along the lines of a fearless hero. No one's going to file a complaint against the people who are prosecuting them and alleging that person of having committed crimes while they're still in the prosecution process. It's amazing that someone would even consider doing that. So in basically every instance, except for this one, apparently, if I understand the situation correctly, when someone is arrested and charged, you're basically not going to receive a complaint. I mean, virtually every instance when someone is charged, you're not going to get a complaint because it's far too risky to issue a complaint against the police officers that will be testifying against you in court. And just like it was said, I believe this board has almost no concept of the amount of intimidation and trauma that exists when someone has gone through a bad situation with the police. And I got to remind you, as I do at almost every meeting, I've been telling you about this since 2019. We're pushing 2 years now. I brought all these issues to the attention of this board about the issues of the filing window being too small. I brought forward the issues of someone being incarcerated or intimidated or having gone through trauma, not being able to get records so that they can file a thoughtful complaint. I've brought every single one of these issues to you at every single one of your meetings for the last 2 years, and nothing has changed. I know the board likes to think that there's been progress. In some ways there's been progress, but the ordinance hasn't changed, right? The first meeting that I spoke to you guys at in 2019, I had multiple board members, some of those people aren't on the board anymore, come up to me after the meeting and cheer me on and say that they agreed with all the problems that I cited. They agreed with the issue of the filing window being too small. They agreed with the issue of all the issues that were brought forward by Sarah Nixon just now about reasons someone might not be able to file right away. And those reasons are many and they're substantial. And that's why you guys only have 4 complaints this year, and 2 of them you just dismissed. I don't think people on this board understand this person who filed these complaints once and then filed them again years later. Again, if I understand the dates right, they feel, I think they probably feel extremely wronged by our police department and feel some severe misconduct has taken place, and they're really, really upset about it. And they're probably going to feel that for the rest of their life. Maybe they shouldn't have ever been in jail. Maybe there was misconduct that put them in jail, and maybe they're innocent. I don't know what their situation is. But when you get a complaint from that person and you just deny it, what do you think happens to that person for the rest of their life? What do you think happens to the people around them? You've just generated so much more mistrust with the police department. I was really upset to hear that the complaint wasn't investigated at all. Maybe you guys were right to go by the restrictions in the CPRB ordinance about not hearing the complaint for your board. But it does say in the police policy manual that the Urbana Police Department takes seriously all complaints. I can't even imagine. It's hard to state in words how negligent it is and how willfully negligent it is for the Urbana Police Department to have received allegations of police misconduct and say, well, we don't have to investigate this, therefore we're not going to. That is a police department that is intent on committing misconduct and doing whatever they want and not serving the public. What a poor attitude. Bye.
Thanks, Chris. All right. I'm seeing no other hands raised among, oh, okay, just got one. Mr. Pittman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Lance Pittman. I agree with a lot of the previous comments, but I just sort of wanted to focus in on the incarceration issue. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other about the validity of the complaint. I don't really know anything about it, but one thing I do know about is incarceration. I worked in a prison for over 2 years as an employee of the University of Illinois. And I just want to make it totally clear to anyone who does not have experience with incarceration issues that it is absolutely not easy to do anything while you're incarcerated. It's not even easy to do anything in a prison if you are not one of the people that are incarcerated there. And I can cite an example from just like the last year or two in which the University of Illinois' library at Danville Correctional Center was raided and had our books threatened to be thrown out by staff at Danville Correctional Center. Other things have happened in the past too, where we will have things like memos or call passes or other sorts of paperwork that will just go missing because the correctional officers who work there decide, they see the words EJP, which stands for Education Justice Project, the organization I work for, and they just throw it away. And we've had many events canceled after, carpooling multiple professors out from the University of Illinois to Danville Correctional Center, for example. And it's a waste of everyone's time. And this is what happens to us free citizens. I would not be surprised at all if something like a police complaint immediately gets thrown away. I don't know how an incarcerated person gets it out unless they found some way of smuggling a note out, but they would have to give that to a correctional officer or to the institutional mail system. So it's actually a miracle when something gets out, especially related to misconduct and criminal justice issues coming from a person who is currently incarcerated. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm seeing no other hands raised, going once, going twice. Okay. So we're through public participation. We have no further items on the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, first and seconded. Lamont, please take a roll call.
Mr. Allegretti,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz, Mr. Dossett,
Yes.
Ms. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
and Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
All right, we are finished. Thanks everyone for their attention and the public for coming in. This meeting is over.